Not gonna lie, press record, didn't know where to start. All I wanted to do was say I've been listening to The Life of a Showgirl on repeat since Friday. And that feels like a really slightly dorky thing to admit, but I'm going to admit it. And how does that connect to this? Not entirely sure yet. Let's find out. So, the thing about doing this podcast weekly, when I kicked it back off, I had the eclipse to talk about all month long, right? And I did. I talked about that. And now we are out of eclipse season, which I mentioned last week. Um, and it does make it so that I don't quite have things lined up as much. And so it's going to start being a what's going on in life and how does that relate to tarot type podcast. And I love that. And that's what the eclipse was, right? It's just there was that astrological thing that could actually tie what was going on to. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the full moon that just happened. I released an episode just about the full moon and how Aries is connected to the Emperor. I did that on Monday because that's when the full moon was, and now I'm recording this on Wednesday, and I'll drop Friday. And then I want to talk a bit about what that full moon has sparked for me, which is really exciting. And actually, it can tie into eclipses. So we're going to see how the eclipse energy is kind of rippling through my life, because where better to explain astrology and what's seeing than me being my own case study. That's how I learned tarot. That's how I live tarot. And that's how I've learned and lived astrology as well, is really all through this lens of my own self, because it's nice to be able to see how things play out through my own lens. And that's the only way we really know the world, right? Is through our own lenses. You can hear what other people have to say. You can learn through their stories and what they've gone through. And that's really good knowledge to take in and learn from. But really, we still shape our own life through our own things that we see and how our life goes. And so I'll be talking a lot about that because that's what I know. I know my life and how it's played out. So we'll be talking about that. And funnily enough, my creative spark actually has to do a lot with, it feels like, Taylor Swift dropping a new album, which is crazy to me because I am not normally I must listen to a new album over and over and over, no matter who the artist is. I have found that through I love music. I've always loved music. I love dancing. I love singing. I love the way it flows through my head. Love it. And I've always kind of been a what's on the radio type person. Grew up with CDs that my parents had, so we'd put CDs on when we were listening to music at home. And it was, what was ever on the radio plus what my parents really liked. And then in high school and college, I got into a lot of the more pop punk, emo music because I had a lot of friends who that's what they listened to. And I did love the music, wouldn't have listened to it if I didn't enjoy it. But the excitement always came from other people being really excited to listen to that album. The concerts were because somebody else saw that they were going to be in town and they were like, do you want to go to this? And then as soon as I was there, I was like, this concert's happening. Let's go. Sign me up. I can't wait. And I'd be front and center. I'd have listened to their latest album by myself with other people, right? But it was always a catalyst of somebody else saying, hey, let's listen to this. And then once I knew I liked them, yes, I'd listen to them. They'd go onto my playlist on my iPod, or if I knew it was, I was in a particular mood and I knew there was the right person to listen to, Death Cab for Cutie became like, there was a span of time my senior year, maybe it was junior year of college, that was just like, I had this walk home and Death Cab for Cutie was the album I went to every time for that walk. I don't know, it was just the right mood, right? And so but I'm never following artists to the point where I'm like, oh, this new album's coming out, I'm so excited. It's just not how my brain works. I don't focus that way. But I have really enjoyed Threads since it came out. I never got into Twitter, but I really like Threads. And so on Threads, the people that I seem to gravitate towards on Threads tend to be Taylor Swift fans. And so when a new Taylor Swift album comes out, there's a lot of hype on it on my Threads, which is great. It's fun to see people having fun. It's fun to see people enjoy things, right? And it's really enjoyable to watch that. So I was feeling a little left out because everybody was listening to the new album and starting to talk about it. I was like, okay, I gotta listen to it. So I put it on. I have had two things in my earbuds since this album came out. I've either been listening to the spooky dark romance that I am now listening to for the third time. I've listened to it a few different times over the course of the last 2 years, I guess. So it's a comfort read in a way. It's called Her Soul to Take. It's spooky. We're in October, demons, witches, love it. Or I've been listening to the Life of a Showgirl album. And that's it. That's what I've been listening to. And it's wild to me that this album has just worked its way into my brain so much that I just can't stop listening to it. But I think it's because it has a lot of callbacks to music that I grew up with. It's got a lot of really fun themes in it. It's got a lot of joy. It's happy. It's really happy music, and I'm absolutely loving it. So, if you're wondering, that's what I'm listening to right now, and it's great. And I will say, it's funny because right now we've been listening to a lot of K-pop Demon Hunters because that's the favorite of somebody else in our household. And so we get into the car and that's the album that gets requested, which is fun. And it's been fun to have that album on repeat. But it's nice to have my own album that I really enjoy as well right now. So that's what's going on. Now, how does this tie into the other things I wanted to talk about? Let's get into that. So we just had this full moon, Aries full moon, right? It was on Monday. The pictures were so much fun. I got to sit outside and look at the moon, which doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes we're busy, sometimes the angle of the moon is just not quite right that we get a good sight of it in our backyard, but great sight of it. I had fun sitting underneath it and just kind of sitting with it and with myself, which is what I had recommend doing in our Monday podcast. And so I know, like I said, enough astrology to really be able to pay attention to my own chart. I like to pay attention to the transits, where they are in my chart, but I don't always pay attention to what planets I have where and how those transits affect me on a deeper level. That's a little bit deeper into the astrology than I really go. But I do understand what houses I have and where the planets in the current sky are in relation to my own chart, and then my big three. And so, the way our chart is set up, the moons go through, every full moon illuminates a house in our chart. And this past full moon was in Aries. Now, Aries is my 5th house. If you want a breakdown of the houses, I will put that in the comment or in the show notes. So Aries is my 5th house. And the 5th house is a house of creativity. It's a house of children. It's a house of play and joy and fun things. Okay. So other reason why it feels really fitting that this music is what's on repeat, right? So the moon was just really lighting up this spot in my chart of hey, feel into this. What is really bringing you joy and excitement and how are you feeling creative? How can you feed into that for yourself, right? Perfect. And the other fun thing that I've realized with this album, with this music feeling so exciting to me, is that I have actually created a few things online that I would not have created before this moment. Um, I've been feeling this itch of like, it's really fun to lip sync. Why don't I do that? And it just feels weird. And it feels like, oh, all eyes on me, but really secretly underneath it all with my Leo moon and just what I've done in the past. And I know me, I like public speaking. I'm here talking. I like showing up. It's just in my head, I had this thing where I'm like, how does that fit? How does that fit into what I'm doing? And how it fits into what I'm doing is that it gives me some joy, right? So I decided to do some lip sync video, and I have really a lot of fun with that. And then I was like, okay, editing a reel isn't that big of a deal. Oh, I could actually do this. Um, to line the music up just right, it took some effort. And I think I had the story in my head that that's too much effort to do these things. But then I did it, and I'm like, oh, that was actually fun. So then I finished that reel and I send it off. And then suddenly a new idea pops into my head. I was like, oh, I could do that one. Because that one was different because it involved me actually taking different clips of myself throughout the day and then being able to edit them all together and find just the right amount that I wanted. And that used to feel like a lot. And it still feels like a lot, but it feels like a lot, but doable a lot. So I did that one. I was like, okay, that's cool. Now, where does tarot come in? So, I was listening to Opalite, which is one of Taylor Swift's songs, new songs. And it just has this like, it's really fun and poppy. And it's just like this enjoyable movement, right? But the lyrics in the chorus, I was listening to it. And suddenly, while I was listening to the chorus, in my head, I could see the tarot cards that related to each line of this chorus. And it was just the most fun connection I have made to a song and tarot ever. I was just so excited. I was like, I have to do this. So I did. I wrote it all out I had it in my head. I wrote it out in my notes in my phone because I didn't want to forget it, which was really funny because then I was trying to tell my 3-year-old why I had to write things down. He's like, no, you need to hold me. And I was like, no, I gotta write this down. I have this spark of inspiration. I have to get it out. He's like, why? I was like, if I forget it, then I'm going to be frustrated because I was really excited about this. He goes, why? Why would you forget? I'm like, there's a lot going on. So I even wrote it down. I was really excited. So I did that and I recorded it. Now, the reason that this feels so exciting and pertinent is because there's this thing that I have with tarot where I can connect what's going on outside, right, to the cards in this way that like pattern recognition and systems and just being able to see it all together really plays out. And it was really apparent in this chorus because it was very much okay. Oh, that card's talking about the Tower card. Oh, that could connect right there to the Nine of Swords. Oh, and that connects to the Ten of Cups. And it was just like I could see each card laid out in my head. And I was like, what if I gave this tarot reading? That'd be so cool, type thing. Right? And I think that a big part of how my brain works that way is how I started learning tarot in the first place. Now, I'll tell the story again because who knows whether you've heard it or not. If you've heard it, you're here listening again. Welcome back. I started reading tarot when I started my meditation journey. And I was excited to start connecting to my inner wisdom and my inner knowledge, right? I knew that I could connect to it. And I started connecting to it through a meditation journey, and it just still felt noisy. It felt like, I don't know, there's sometimes on sitcoms where they do this thing where they show you the storyline from multiple characters' points of view, right? And like, it's all similar, but it's also still different. And it's not always the same as what the main character is seeing, right? And so it gives you an idea of like, oh, everybody has their own perspective. Well, it felt like that in my head when I was trying to sort through my inner wisdom, where it was like I could see that there was probably a main storyline that I wanted to follow, but then it kept branching off into these other spaces. And then I'd be like, uh, and I didn't know which direction I really was supposed to be focusing on that point in time. You know, it's like I know the end. I want to get this end result. That's the big story, but I keep seeing all these little stories everywhere else. So by starting to pull tarot cards, it was like, you know, okay, the card that I pulled is the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups is about our dreams and tapping into them, that may be things we've put up on the shelf and people are now offering us to come back to that dream. Okay, so now I have a through line that I can then keep journaling on, and I really could understand like, oh, this is how that relates to that. This is that situation I was in where that really did just show up in my life, and I could tie it to the wisdom and my own life, and I could make that connection between the two. And so tarot started doing that for me, where I was like, oh, this is that situation. Okay. And so that was how I started reading tarot, was through the meditation. And then again, I kept making it my own life because I was going from that meditative standpoint of we are our own leaders. We have our own way of showing up in the world. We are the ones that make things happen in our life. We are the ones that set the stage for ourselves, right? We hold the keys. And so the idea that, you know, we can make joy from within, we can make happiness from within, we can understand the world, and that we're all interconnected and we all play a part in each other, but we ripple out, our own actions ripple out to touch other people. And we are only in control of ourselves. We are only in control of the ripples we make ourselves. And so tarot was very much an internal, what do I have control over? Okay. And so this connection then, when I was listening to the chorus of Opalite, I could hear that same thing where it was like, oh, don't worry, you were dancing through the lightning strikes. That's the first line of this chorus. And it's like, oh, that's the tower, right? You know, that's the lightning strikes in the tower, the danger that's coming down. Oh, things are like crumbling. Oh no. And then it was like sleepless and the onyx night. And then it's like, oh, the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords, you wake up and you're scared and you're unsure about what you're doing. And are you overthinking it? And what's going on? And how does this work? And how does that, and you're looping, right, on those thoughts. So you're sleepless. And like literally they are sleepless. And this background is black. And I'm like, that's that. And then it was, the sky is opalite. Okay, so when you look at an opalite, it's like this blue, white, milky rainbow color. And then I was like, oh, that's the Ten of Cups. Like we're making our rainbows. We're bringing the things that bring us joy and happiness into the world. Okay, and so it was just like this thing where I was like, I can see each card as this plays out, and it was just so much fun. And so just the way that I then took that, and instead of just talking about it here, which I'm excited to talk about it here, but the fact that I was like, oh, but then I could do like a video where I'm just like pulling the cards and just make it nice and fun and enjoyable for me and for whoever's watching, and the fun play of it all. And I was like, oh yeah, let's play. And then that brought me back to realizing, with this Aries full moon in my house of creativity, it feels like I'm finally giving myself the permission to actually show up and be really excited to be my more creative, funny, goofy self. And it's just amazing how sometimes these outside things that you're not even expecting to have this catalyst can do that, right? And that's what we tried. That's what I talked about through the eclipse episodes, right? Where it was like the tower is this thing that just comes and suddenly it's like, bam, we're going to change things up. And that has really, really started to take root. And so while the bam has happened, it's now I'm actually seeing it ripple out, right? The bam happened because it was like, okay, here's that eclipse. We're going to shake things up in your 10th house. And then it's like, oh, and now that you're shaking up your 10th house, how does your creativity play into how you show up in your website and in your podcast and in your social media? How are you going to play that up? What are you going to do? Are you going to bring yourself some more joy as far as that goes? How's that showing up? And so it's really been exciting to take that time to check back in with myself and notice how it's actually playing on everything. I love tarot because I love that there's a system to it. That's how I started this, right? I knew that there was wisdom in me, and I knew that tarot had a language that I could learn. It didn't just rely on my intuition, which has now grown and blossomed, and I very much do pull a lot of intuitive information when I do my readings. But there's still a language that was very specific to it that I could learn and understand the system behind it, which made a lot of sense for me and helped me feel more logical about learning and understanding it and digesting it. But then as time has gone on, and as I've actually taken that time to say, oh, okay, which card am I pulling today? I'm pulling the Eight of Cups. The Eight of Cups, eights are about movement. Cool. Cups are about our intuition and our emotions. Oh, the eight, when we look at the picture, he's walking away from these cups. That's the movement. And so we're walking away for something that we've put a lot of emotional effort into, right? And then I'd think, oh, what is going on in my life right now that I need to actually walk away from? What emotional things that I've invested so much time and energy in that I am no longer doing? What is it calling for me to let go of, right? So then I had to do the introspective work of like, okay, what is this connecting to me? And then from there, I could say, oh, I can see this in the world around me. Oh, yes, that is that moment when I had to do that. Okay. And so then it feels more deeply inside of me because I'm like, oh, okay, we're doing this. This is what we need to do. This is how it's happening. This is where we're going with it. Right. And I love that portion of it so much. And now, like I said, the intuition is now deeper and it speaks a lot. Yes, still for me, but also when I then read for other people, right? Because there's another layer of it where I know me, but if someone sits down and I've never met them before at when I do a fair, or if they've found me online and they're asking for a reading, I don't know them. So then my intuition has to kind of kick up even more because it's like, okay, what direction am I going with the Three of Cups? When I pull the Three of Cups and say, oh, you have the Three of Cups showing up for you in the reading where it says it's time to take a break. Well, I could say it says to take a break. Does this mean that they shouldn't be with this same group of people they've been partying with? Or does this mean that they should still find community? Or does this mean that they need to actually step back and decipher things on their own instead of trying to analyze everything with other people, right? And so my intuition then leads the way on which direction do I go with this, along with the other cards that are in there, right? And so it's just been fun seeing that building block of you don't have to be intuitive to start reading, and also intuition will grow and blossom as you do read more and you start trusting yourself. But if you are one of those people who don't feel like you're intuitive and you start reading, then you need to actually do the introspective work to see that it's playing out. Because if you don't actually go back and do that analysis of like, oh, yeah, I did pull that card for the full moon, and this is what happened, right? If we don't do that check back in, we never give our brain that feedback loop of, oh, yeah, I do see this. I do see this playing out in the world. Oh, yeah, I do see this coming up. Oh, yeah, that was spot on. Exactly what I thought, right? And so it's just a really fun way to kind of look at it. And I know that when I've talked with other people about tarot, it's fun hearing how they interact with tarot because not everybody sees it in that same way. I feel like I find very mundane ways that the tarot shows up in my life, um, because then that helps figure out what the next action is. How are we moving forward with this? Sometimes the readings feel so down to earth and basic that it's like, is this even helpful? But then I know that it is because it wouldn't be showing up if it wasn't something that needed to be heard anyway. So even if it is basic and down to earth, there's a reason for it showing up, because sometimes the most basic messages are the ones we're purposely overlooking because we want to find the fantastical messages instead, right? That sounds more fun. But sometimes it really is just go clean the stove because it feels better when you have a clean stove. It's just, and that seems boring, but sometimes we live in the boring, right? So that was a little bit of a ramble. Welcome to my brain. But also, it all connected, and I know it did. So let's pull a card on the energy for the next week. What can we do for this next week to bring in a little joy? I'm liking this joy train because, yes, I know the world is a little bit of a scary, frustrating place right now, but if we abandon joy, then we abandon ourselves. And if we abandon joy, then we're abandoning any chance of it being better than frustrating and unhappy. So let's find some joy. And tarot says, Three of Pentacles. And I laugh because if you watched the message for October, our October reading, this is a theme for the month. So we're coming back to it for joy. So build something, create something, and do it with others. Because when you bring other people into your creations, it can be a lot more fun, right? If you don't know how to do something, you can lean on other people who have experienced it before. If you're not sure what to create, you can look for inspiration from other people. So go ahead, build something this week, build your joy, because sometimes happiness is just something we have to make for ourselves. If you enjoyed watching, listening, I would love for you to like this, to subscribe to this. And sometimes I am always planning on dropping episodes on Fridays, but sometimes I drop them in between the Friday episodes just because I feel like it, because I have fun showing up and talking about things. Or suddenly I realize that we have a full moon and I didn't get to talk about it at all. It happens. So go ahead and like and subscribe. And follow me, Instagram, Threads. I'm chatting on there. I'm posting funny reels now, apparently. It's fun. I'm so glad you're here, and I can't wait to see you again. Bye for now.